I know Bob and Tom were on Kirby's teleconference via the SEC yesterday, and Bob asked him the question, hey, is JT Daniels cleared? He's still not cleared as of yesterday. As we bring,
wink.
Yeah, wink, wink. As we bring in our friend Tom Murphy. Tom, I know you voted for the All-SEC teams, the order of finish for both the SEC West, SEC East. Any surprises to see how that turned out for the media selection?
I was a little bit surprised. In the morning, guys, I'm a little surprised that Florida wound up ahead of Georgia on the SEC East polling, because I think Georgia got more votes for overall SEC champion. When a team wins the division 3 years in a row and has a little turnover at quarterback and stuff, I guess people think, oh, Florida's on the rise. And Kyle Trask, the first team quarterback, by the way, is going to do good things with Florida. But I'm kind of in the until somebody beats Georgia, I'm going to go ahead and think they're the best team in the East.
It's hard to. That's kind of what I hold as far as that is concerned, Tom. And like you said, it was weird. Georgia had tied with LSU the second best chances to win the SEC according to the media, but yet Florida ranked above them at that. And that's kind of what happened with Auburn and Georgia and Alabama years back. It's kind of weird how that sometimes occurs when voting for the SEC order of finish.
Yeah, it is, and I don't know, maybe there's a couple of people who put Georgia third or something, which, that'd be kind of weird. But, hey, Florida outpolled them. I think they had 53 first-place votes to win the East versus Georgia's 43, and that's when you've only got about 90-something people voting, that's enough of a margin to do it. So I don't know how much they'll use that as fuel. They're a 3.5 touchdown favorite in this game, and certainly have one of the best defenses in the country. And to me, that's the big dilemma for the Razorbacks on Saturday, is how to move the ball and finish off drives with points against this tough defense.
Yeah, and I think that is the big challenge. Let's zero in on this game. This is our last visit before the game on Saturday. And I want to talk about Arkansas's defense, because to me that's still the biggest question mark with Arkansas's team. You got Barry Odom, of course, as your defensive coordinator. And I think you're going to see a lot of different fronts. We've heard about 3-man fronts, 4-man fronts, walking up a linebacker, standing up maybe 5-man fronts. What do you think we're going to see? And then, Tom, what are you looking for from this defense against Georgia's offense, which probably isn't one of the best offenses in this league, but certainly going to be a tough task for the Razorbacks?
It really is. And I think Georgia's game plan is going to be try to keep things relatively simple, because I think DeJuan Mathis is going to start. Just try to lean on the run game, try to let their offensive line work on Arkansas's defensive front, and not have DeJuan Mathis have to complete a bunch of 3rd and 6s and 3rd and 7s to move the chain. On the Arkansas side of things, yes, Sam Pittman last night on his radio show talked about how multiple they want to be, how different types of blitzing they're going to have from all angles and all positions. And that's been one of the kind of, in my view, kind of the cool mysteries of this camp, is they've talked about all the different coverages they want to run, and the rotations, and then the personnel groupings they're going to use. We haven't gotten a whole lot of insight into that. So if you can, confuse the blocking schemes just a little bit, okay, and then make your rotations a little confusing on your pre-snap reads, jump into something else, confuse DeJuan Mathis a little bit. If you can throw them off balance for a quarter and a half, or maybe make it into the second half before they start to try to figure things out, then you've got a chance to limit their scoring and hope that you can do some damage. I mean, Arkansas keeping control of the ball in this game is going to be really big. Getting in manageable 3rd down situations. And so, even though Georgia has a talent edge on them, and probably can rely on their offensive line to just kind of lean on the Razorbacks, if they can confuse things just a little, that would be their path to a win, in my view.
I think it's a good read on kind of where you're at with guys like Jonathan Marshall and Xavier Kelly and Isaiah Nichols and Dorian Gerald going up against a offensive line that was trained until this season by Sam Pittman, recruited by them. Now Matt Luke takes over that O-line at Georgia. Good barometer, good measuring stick, Tom, to go up against an O-line that has been trained well in the past.
No doubt about that. And last night, Bumper Poole talked about how their mental mindset has got to be, this is going to be a physical game all the way through. And you in the trenches, it's pushing, and trying to exert physical dominance over the other team. And that's what Georgia has gotten so good at. And until Arkansas can be in that same arena, they're going to be an underdog type of team. And so they've got bigger guys. John Marshall's one of the strongest dudes in the SEC. And it's just withstanding that, holding your gap. And the linebackers being able to fight off blocks from, pulling guards and things like that. So Sam Pittman is trying to instill the physicality it's going to take, but this is just game one with it. And Kirby Smart has been, at Georgia, this will be his 5th year, and they've kind of already got that mentality instilled, and certainly in their offensive line.
Talking with Tom Murphy of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Tom, you mentioned trying to instill the toughness into his players. You could tell from Sam Pittman talking with Paul Feinbaum yesterday, Rakeem Boyd earlier this week, that the excitement that's been echoed from Sam has kind of been passed along to his players. How geared up, how ready are these guys to go to finally get to play a season that many of us thought would never happen?
Yeah, they're super pumped up, and you can just tell it in Rakeem Boyd's voice. He did a Zoom with us this week, and I'm just so happy to be playing ball again. I love football so much. I can't wait to get out there. And somebody tweeted that, and he's like, ain't lying. And so I hope they can get some scenes for him. I hope he can get in the open field, because this Georgia defense is so fast. And their back seven is so experienced that, as we mentioned earlier, creating first downs, getting guys the ball out on the edges and into space so they can run, so key in this game.
Tom, we're not going to have you on tomorrow, so I just want to go and do this now. What are you expecting to actually happen during Saturday's game?
Well, I've kind of gone over it. You do not want DeJuan Mathis to be comfortable from the first snap. And in so many games last year, it felt like whatever offense Arkansas was facing had the game plan and went out and just started executing. And you want them to have questions and to be puzzled a little bit and to be thrown off their marks. And just like take the Western Kentucky game. They went 7 of 7 on third downs and 5 of 5 on fourth downs in the first half. They were never stopped. They scored 5 touchdowns. You've got to do something to throw them off stride. And so I think Arkansas is going to have some success defensively at making it so Georgia's got to think through their blocking schemes and make adjustments. And but I do think that Georgia's got so much overall talent, it's going to be hard to beat them. Yeah. Covering the spread, yeah, I think Arkansas can do that. What I'd like to see is Felipe Franks and the receivers be on the same page. If you can do that, and you can keep Georgia honest and make them have to cover guys, then you have a better chance of opening up your running game. And if Arkansas can do that, I think they'll score some and have a chance to be in the game. But I really believe this. I think they're going to have to win the turnover battle by a couple or 3, and then make some kind of dazzling plays in special teams to have a chance to win the game.
Tom Murphy with us here on the Morning Rush. Obviously, this is Sam Pittman's first game as a head coach at this level. There's going to be a lot of eyes on him Saturday, watching him, watching his body language throughout this first game, looking for that big first head coaching moment. What do you expect to see from Sam? What are you going to be watching for on Saturday? Because I know a lot of eyes will be seeing how he behaves, how he reacts, the decisions he makes throughout the course of this game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, and he's even said this, how they handle timeouts, how they handle clock running down, and if there's a penalty, do you take the penalty or you take the runoff of time, and just things like that. And think back to the, I guess it was the Portland State game last year. They got down in the red zone, and I think there was some kind of miscommunication about calling a timeout or spiking the ball, and they ended up not scoring right before halftime. And Portland State was in the game at that point, and it was just head scratching. And the guys on the sidelines were doing one thing, and Nick Stark was out there, and I think the guys on the field did the other thing. I don't even remember. It was so confusing. You don't want that. You want clear communication, and hopefully they do that, and they don't look overwhelmed by any situations, and keep the pre-snap penalties down, those types of things. And I mean, if there's a blatant pass interference call on Georgia that the officials miss, I want to see how he deals with the officials. So all these things are to be determined for Sam Pittman, and it's going to be fun to watch.
And along the lines of coaching, Barry Odom, the defensive coordinator, will be up in the box. You'll have Kendall Briles, the offensive coordinator, on the field. So when you're talking about signaling in plays, communicating with players, one of the coordinators upstairs, the offensive coordinator downstairs.
Exactly, and that's my first interview with Kendall Briles. He talked about that and how important it is, because he's kind of thinking ahead, and he likes that direct line of communication. I don't think there's a bunch of signaling from the other quarterbacks and stuff. I mean, they might do that, but it could be just total smoke screen. He likes to be in communication with his quarterback and walking the sidelines. And then, obviously, Barry Odom watching from up above, a veteran guy. You can see things better on the field from up there, and then you just hope that your communication to the guy on the field who's talking to the dudes is a clear line. And so we'll see how that plays out for the Razorbacks.
Tom, before we let you go, Tommy and I were discussing this earlier. There still is a possibility, if not a probability, that certain players will miss on Saturday. I know you're ears to the ground on campus. Have you heard anything about a player or two that might not be able to play on Saturday?
Well, we've been watching the open practices, and there's been different position groups that kind of had a few guys missing, and they'd come back. And Sam said on his radio show last night, "We're back." And I'm taking that to mean that the guys that are in quarantine or might have had a positive test are very limited. But we're going to find out on Saturday. It sounds to me like there might be a couple that might not be available on Saturday, but we're just going to have to see how that plays out. A lot of teams in the conference have kept this really close to the vest, not giving out any numbers. And I know Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri has given out some numbers, but I don't know if position groups or anything like that have been revealed.
And as we pointed out earlier in the show, there was a test earlier this week, one yesterday, and another one today as part of the SEC protocol. And that's out of any coach's hands. You're just you're on pins and needles waiting on the results.
You absolutely are. I think Sam Pittman said that weighed on him more than any other aspect of this opening game, is managing that and just hoping that you don't get some tracing and quarantining of groups, that guys that might not have it, but they were around guys. So, today's the last day, and we'll see how that thing plays out.
Yeah, one positive test could knock out like 20 players. That's the thing with the contact tracing and the quarantining. So. Yeah,
and I'm sure you guys have thought a lot about this too, but the USF Notre Dame game, so Notre Dame comes back, and they've got to put things on pause for their week, and then turns around and USF does. So were those given on game day? Because that's the kind of thing that we felt that the testing would eliminate anybody on the field from passing it on. And I haven't read anything deeper on that, but that's the concerning part to me.
Tom, appreciate it as always, man. We'll talk on Tuesday. Won't see you this weekend, but have a good time. Are you going this weekend? Did you get that golden ticket?
Yeah. I'm going, and I'm going to try to cover every game, man. We'll see how that plays out.
All right, brother. All right, Tom. Talk next week, man. So good stuff from Tom Murphy as always.